Hi there, this quick video provides you how to implement concrete damage plasticity in ABAQUS. Let's jump into it.
Today, we're diving deep into the concrete damage plasticity model in ABAQUS. I'm going to walk you through a complete step-by-step workflow for one of the most powerful and, sometimes one of the trickiest material models out there. We're going to cover it all, from the theory behind it to troubleshooting your final run. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the why this model even exists. Then we'll break down its 3 core concepts. After that, we hit the most critical part, getting your material data ready. From there, it's into the software for a step-by-step guide. Then we'll look at how to show complete failure, and we'll wrap it all up with some essential troubleshooting tips. Let's jump in. Okay, so let's start with the big question. Why do we even need a fancy, specialized model like this just for concrete? What's the end game here? Well, this slide pretty much says it all. This is our ultimate goal. On the left, you've got a real concrete cylinder being crushed in a lab. You can see the actual cracks forming. On the right, that's our digital twin, the simulation. The whole point is to make our simulation so good that it perfectly mirrors that physical reality, predicting exactly where the stress is highest and where those first cracks are going to start to show up. Okay, let's get into the theory for a minute and see what this model is actually made of. To really get a handle on the CDP model, you have to understand the 3 different behaviors it's trying to juggle all at once. And this is a perfect illustration of those 3 pillars. First, you've got elasticity. Think of it like a spring, that initial linear response where it'll bounce right back. Then plasticity kicks in. This is the permanent bending or squishing that happens after it yields. And finally, the really crucial part for concrete, damage. This represents the material getting weaker as tiny cracks form, which is why the unloading slope on that graph gets shallower. It's the mix of all 3 that makes the simulation realistic. All right, listen up, because this next section is absolutely 100% critical. I can't say it enough. Your simulation is only as good as the data you feed it. You know the saying, garbage in, garbage out. First things first, you need your compressive behavior data, that classic stress-strain curve. And where you get it from really matters. A cylinder test is what you want, because it gives a much more realistic picture. Now, if all you have is data from a cube test, you can still make it work, but you'll have to knock the stress values down by about 20%. Multiply them by 0.8 to get them in the right ballpark. But what if you don't have any lab data at all? Hey, don't worry, it happens. There's a fantastic, widely used workaround. You can actually generate a whole stress-strain curve from scratch using this formula from Eurocode 2. You just need a couple of basic properties for your concrete, which you can usually look up in a table like this one. Pop those numbers into a spreadsheet, and you're off to the races. Now, let's talk about tension. The most important part here is defining what happens after the concrete hits its peak strength and starts to crack. We call this the softening branch. You can make it a straight line or something more complex. Honestly, the exact shape isn't the biggest deal. What's crucial is that the total area under that curve, the fracture energy, is correct. Get that right, and your results will be solid. Okay, this is a huge one, so please pay close attention. ABAQUS does not want your total strain data. You have to do a little bit of homework first. For the compression side, you need to calculate what's called inelastic strain, by basically removing the springy elastic part. And for tension, you do the same thing, but it's called cracking strain. Trust me, this is one of the most common spots where things go wrong. So for that damage parameter D, which goes from 0 for perfect to 1 for totally failed, the gold standard is to use data from really complex cyclic loading tests. But let's be realistic, most of us just don't have that data lying around. So the much more practical way is to use this simple formula. It's just an approximation based on the stress level, but it works surprisingly well for most cases. Before you even think about opening ABAQUS, you have to do this one final check on your data. It is non-negotiable. Deep down, ABAQUS converts your input into something called plastic strain. If that number ever goes down or becomes negative, the analysis will just stop, dead. So do a quick check in your spreadsheet first to make sure that value is always positive and always going up. All right, our data is prepped, it's clean, it's validated, time to get our hands dirty. Let's fire up the software and see how all this hard work comes together inside the ABAQUS interface. Okay, first you'll put in your basic elastic properties, and then you'll see these 5 plasticity parameters. Now don't let this screen intimidate you. The bottom 4 values are pretty much standard. You can just use the default values from the literature. The only one you might ever really need to play with is the dilation angle. Think of it as your main tuning knob for calibrating the model later on. Next up, under compressive behavior, you're just going to paste your data right in from your spreadsheet. The key things to remember are you're pasting yield stress versus inelastic strain, and the very first data point has to start at the yield stress, where the inelastic strain is exactly 0. And you're going to do the exact same thing over on the tensile behavior tab. Just paste in your stress versus cracking strain data. Again, this defines that softening part of the curve, starting right at the peak tensile strength where the cracking strain is 0. You might also notice that option for crack opening displacement. That's a neat trick that can help with mesh sensitivity in certain models. Now for the damage part. This is just a simple mapping game. You go into the damage sub-option and you paste in your calculated damage numbers, matching them up with the inelastic strain values you used before. You're just telling ABAQUS, hey, at this amount of strain, the material has this much damage. That's it. And this slide does a great job of explaining the physics behind those stiffness recovery parameters, WC and WT. It's actually really intuitive. When you compress concrete, any little micro cracks tend to close up so it recovers some stiffness. But when you pull on it, those cracks open up, and they don't just heal themselves, so the stiffness stays degraded. For most simulations, you can just leave the defaults of 1 and 0. All right, now for a feature I know a lot of you are interested in. How do we make the failing elements totally disappear? This gives you that really dramatic and often more realistic visualization of how something completely breaks apart. So it's really important to get the difference here. The damage parameter we just set up only makes an element super weak. It basically turns it to mush, but the element is still there, it's still in the mesh. To get true failure, where the element is completely removed from the calculation, we have to take an extra step that you won't find in the normal menus. So how do we do it? It's a two-part, kind of a hidden trick. First, you have to go into the keyword editor and manually add this concrete failure command. This tells ABAQUS when to consider an element officially failed. Second, you have to go into your mesh settings and check the box to allow element deletion, and you have to request status as an output. You got to do all three of those things or it just won't work. Okay, to wrap things up, let's talk about a few common problems you might run into. These are just a few best practices to help make sure your simulations actually run and to help you figure out what's wrong when they don't. Here's your quick troubleshooting cheat sheet. If your analysis dies right away, I'd bet money it's that data hygiene issue we talked about. Go check your plastic strain. If you're running into convergence problems later in the analysis, dig into the log file and look for negative eigenvalues. That's a sign of instability. And finally, if your results just aren't matching up with your lab tests, the very first thing you should try tuning is that dilation angle. And there you have it, the complete workflow from a messy spreadsheet of raw data all the way to a running simulation with advanced failure. You now have a really solid game plan for tackling complex concrete models with confidence. So the only question left is, what are you going to build with it?